ourselves to bringing their murderers to justice.
Ahmed 20 Nick Reiner will be arraigned after a medical clearance in Los Angeles. Christian Goodman, Fox News.
The famed Louvre Museum is closed again today. Workers look to extend their strike after an infamous robbery. Tourists lined up this morning outside the world's most visited museum, not knowing if they'd get the chance to go inside. Louvre staff have now chosen to continue indefinitely a walkout that forced the attraction to keep its doors closed on Monday. It doesn't open on Tuesdays. There was unhappiness among workers even before October's daylight heist of $100 million worth of crown jewels. Unions say the building's understaffed and it is too little. They also propose a 45% increase in ticket prices for non-European Union visitors due next year. Jonathan Savage, Fox News. Wall Street stock futures are rising for the opening bell this hour. In the NBA, the Knicks won the NBA Cup in the final game of the mid-season tournament being San Antonio. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News. This is Viewpoint, a presentation of the News and Public Affairs Department of AM 1490 WHPV. We welcome your input on the issues of the day. You can contact the Viewpoint line by calling 875-1490. The opinions expressed by our callers and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the management staff of AM 1490 WHPV. And now, Viewpoint.
And good morning and welcome into the Wednesday morning Viewpoint. For this Wednesday morning, December the 17th, 2025, I'm your host, Randy Williams. 334-875-1490 and 1492 are the numbers to call if you have comments or questions. You can also join us live on YouTube on the selmapostherald.com YouTube channel. And yesterday, I apologize for any inconvenience. I'm still going to have to edit yesterday's program. I recorded quite a bit of it on the Zoom cloud, but we have some issues. I don't know what happened. Every once in a while, the internet will act up on us. And that's one of those things that's quite naturally I don't have any control over. However, but I have a couple of backup plans. I usually have a backup to a backup, just in case. I have extensive experience with the gremlins. Anything that can go wrong will when you don't need it to many times. And so, in this business, we have to be prepared. And as we say, the infamous statement, the show must go on, huh? So, where do we start today? I tell you, I was really kind of concerned, I guess is probably the best word to use, especially as it relates to Jackson Hospital in Montgomery. This whole issue of rural hospitals has been an issue for a very long time. It's not something that just came up. This is not something that is a new issue. In Alabama, in fact, when I worked along with a few people, and I'm thinking particularly in terms of Lowndes County, Lowndes County doesn't have a hospital or emergency medical ability. So if a person has an accident, in rural Lowndes County, they have a real problem in terms of time being able to get the proper care. So that is not something that just happened. Lowndes County, to my knowledge, has never had a hospital. So we can't blame that on any political movement. It's something that's been going on for a long time. Hospitals in rural America have a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues with insurance companies, and in the emergency room has had to take on a tremendous cost because they don't turn anybody away. Yeah, but they don't get paid either all the time. So that's another factor, another problem. Now, Jackson Hospital has a reputation for doing a lot of good things well. I know they have an excellent reputation when it comes to heart surgery and transplants and bypass surgery and then the emergency room. And so, and with the way, excuse me, the violence in Montgomery has been, I hate to say it as much as I love Montgomery, but there's an element um, in Montgomery that is spent on the amount. And gun violence seems to be it seems to be the weapon of choice. Although every once in a while somebody use a knife or a bat or a car, and so you can't rule any of that out. But I think the weapon of choice seems to be a gun. And so, and especially, well, I used to be just the weekends, but it seems like almost every day, I hear about somebody being shot or stabbed, and that puts a tremendous stress on the emergency room. So, Baptist Hospital is an excellent facility. UAB has a presence in Montgomery now, but that's not going to be enough. They hopefully they will not let Jackson Hospital close. That would be a real big loss because um, East Alabama, southeastern Alabama, uh, Millbrook and Prattville and Greenville and some of the other surrounding Butler County and some of the other surrounding counties. As a matter of fact, I was listening to one of the stories. I think the WSFA did, and they said that one of the council people, I believe in Montgomery, pointed out that 41, that's a high number, 41% of the people who use um, the hospital at Jackson, 41% don't live in Montgomery. It's from the county and from surrounding counties. And remember, Selma used to have how many at one point? We had three hospitals at one point. Yeah, when Good Samaritan was still open, and then there was Vaughn and Baptist, and so now we're down to one hospital. That's been a while. It's not a new development. Healthcare is an issue that has been hanging over America for a very long time. A lot of people are trying to struggle with it. One of the downsides to capitalism is you got to make a profit. If you're in business, regardless of what type business it is, in the medical profession, they have to make a profit in order to survive. And if you're, the first rule of business is you have to bring in more than you put out. You have to generate more income than you expense, or you're gonna go broke. And that's what's happening with a lot of the rural areas. Now, some will say, well, why doesn't the federal government step in and make the difference? And so, but for how long if the government steps in, but for how long? I guess the term that has become popular over the last decade is sustainability. Can you sustain? How are you going to sustain that level of income? And I've been following this uh, Jackson Hospital issue for a while now uh, because a lot of the money that that they're requesting and that they need also has to do with capital improvement. They're saying that they need to be able to, that's what has happened. Some of the maintenance uh, has gone lacking, and they need to modernize, they get up to date with the proper equipment. Something is, that I wouldn't say simple, but something that I think a lot of us may take something as obvious as an elevator, and water fountains, and X-ray machines, and all the other modern technology uh, that makes a hospital really effective. And now Baptist, I was just at Baptist for a checkup, and I was just really impressed with their customer service, number one, and their equipment, and they're up to date, and everything is modern, uh, but all that costs money. And Jackson Hospital is an asset to this region. And so hopefully they will work it out. But the reason why I bring that up is because of the new development that took place. In fact, what I think I'll do is play this story that Channel 12 did a story on Jackson Hospital. And it was a good story. Before we do that, let's take this break. And then, well, I'll take a phone call first, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll do the Jackson Hospital story. Viewpoint, you're on the air. Yes, good morning. How are you? Is that what? Hello? I can't make out what you're saying. You must be muting your phone off and on. You may need to just turn down, the background noise. Yes, ma'am. Well, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I don't know what percentage comes from Dallas County, but Vaughn, we're blessed with Vaughn. They provide a valuable, priceless service, and so we need to make sure we take care of Vaughn first. And I think what they were talking about, I think they were mainly concerned about that tri-county area for Montgomery, which would be Elmore County and Autauga County and Butler County, and parts of Montgomery County that make up the 41% that's using Jackson Hospital. But I do know we do have several people that do go or used to go to Jackson Hospital for heart issues. I've got some other folks trying to get through. Let me let you make your closing remark. My opinion about what family? The Miners are my cousins. So what have you heard me say about them? Well, even though if you continue to criticize and attack, don't expect me not to respond in kind. And I hadn't seen anything about them recently, and nothing bad at least, nothing but good things. But let me go to the other line. Thank you for calling. Viewpoint, you're on the air. Good morning. Mm, that's a real good idea. they're going to have to do something good, and that would really come under the heading of sustainability, because yeah, Danny Thomas and St. Jude's Hospital and the Children's Hospital, but they're very aggressive and they advertise, they market, and they advertise for donations and financial support, and they're very intentional about going after those kind of dollars. So no, you're right. Yes, ma'am, no doubt. Well, it would certainly be I think it would certainly be a help. I noticed though within the last year, maybe the last 2 years, Jackson has become more aggressive in their public relations. And I'm not talking social media. I'm talking they've been very intentional in their media efforts in terms of public relations. Somebody knows what they're doing, but it may be a little bit too late in terms of as they started becoming more aggressive with their PR. No doubt. No, that's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. Let's get ready to take this break, and I'll be back with more right after these messages. We were Trey Parker and our friends at Reliable GMC 80 years, sir.
That's right, George. We've been right here at the same location at 14th Lawrence Street. Also the same family. Bill is here, has his two sons, John and Will, and soon they'll be taking over the third generation at the ownership of Reliable Chevrolet GMC. Now let's talk about what's going on with Chevrolet GMC. We're coming up on the end of the year. Big time discounts on these 25 that you got with. That's right, George. We're moving them out right and left. If you're in the market for a 2025 model, I mean, encourage you to come down. Get them while they're still available. The 26s are here. We've got more coming, so we got to make room. Whatever your transportation needs are, we can take care of them right here. And let us get you fixed up so you can be riding today. Not forget about the pre-owned side and service. That's right. We've got all kinds of makes and models on the pre-owned inventory, from cars to trucks to SUVs. And when it comes to getting your vehicle service, we have the top service department in Central Alabama, right here at Reliable GMC. And it will change. Still always free, not just your first step, every step of the way. Regardless, and the or check out our website. Georgia has the latest advanced technology, especially designed for today's multi-disciplinary vehicles. Combined operations safety features like lane departure and collision systems. New machine computer laser measuring system delivers designed for increased capacity and George deals directly with your insurance company, but they work for you. Call to schedule your estimate and repairs today. See the pros and Scooter Hoggett at George's Paint and Body Shop, 1215 JL Chestnut Junior Boulevard. Call 343-1441. Wednesday morning, December 2014.
people's lives.
We've had Isaiah Sankey and Dan Harris vote against this resolution, with this partner being one a medical professional and knows the state of human life and should have that value and represents the least of the right city.
The state will match the county's funding, so their vote means the hospital will miss out on at least $15 million. On top of that, other local municipalities that rely on the hospital haven't come to the table at all.
Just the city of Montgomery, who only has about 50% of the patients that are actually going to Jackson Hospital, seems to be the only entity that really wanted to step up in partnership with the state of Alabama. We needed other partners, regional partners that were not at the table. We needed the county commission, and at the last minute, it looks like they're not coming up.
The news made the outlook for Jackson Hospital bleak, but Mayor Stephen Reed is still weighing his options.
It certainly puts the situation in a much more dire position than we were when we came in this morning.
We may be looking at an alternative resolution, and that is what will we do with this building when it becomes vacant for the hospital.
According to council members, there are currently 175 patients at the facility, and finding somewhere for them to go would be a major problem.
If this thing don't get straightened out, those folks are about to go to Birmingham or Huntsville or some other city around the state that's got a vacant bed, because Babbitt East, Babbitt South don't have a vacant bed.
Yeah, we talked to the Montgomery County Commission, who emphasized they are keeping to the previously committed $10 million towards Jackson Hospital. Commissioner Isaiah Sankey, who voted against the measure, added in that statement, quote, the criteria which was established during the vote, the initial $10 million commitment from the commission, would need to be satisfied prior to any further allocation of taxpayer dollars. Now, the hospital has just over 2 weeks to secure the $293 million needed to stay afloat. With today's vote by the City Council, they've secured $200 million in commitments. Mark.
It is such a critical part of the healthcare infrastructure in our community. Simon, thanks for that. The hospital's new CEO said today that while he is disappointed with the commission's vote, the board of the hospital will continue to work with local governments, and he's confident they will provide the hospital the support it needs to continue to serve the
1490 WFBB, it sounds like they're going to need about another 80 or 90 million. Surprise, though, Montgomery is usually that the one made the county commission, one of the commissioners had to abstain from voting because of conflict of interest, and so I think the vote ended up being a tie vote, and not being able to have it broken translates into a no vote. But hopefully they will come up with some solution, because it is certainly needed, and not just as that's another discussion, you know. But right, quite naturally, we border what has been defined as the river region, and when we had an opportunity to become a part of the river region, our visionary leadership didn't take advantage of it. But you know what they say about vision. Scripture says about vision.
Police still looking into why exactly that was in front of this Waymo when he should not have been. But mom, obviously very concerned. She ordered this Waymo for her daughter's sake. So the whole thing on TikTok is still viral. Take a look.
Why are you in it? To make Jackson Hospital, not just save it, but make it profitable, you know? And again, that is the basis for capitalism, is profit. You know, not non-profit, but profit. And so hopefully, sounds like they've got most of it done. And maybe, but you know, as one of the callers pointed out earlier, donations, if it's a sustainable stream of income, could be a real good source, because you know, for donations you don't have to necessarily put anything out to you don't have to spend money to create or manufacture a solid object. Now, you may, even when it comes to some of the marketing, you know, A lot of hospitals get a lot of press support from local media, television, radio, newspaper, print media, and some social media. Social media is good for certain things, but at the end of the day, and I was really thinking about this earlier. I've been in the business a long time and have been involved in many aspects of mass media. And so at the end of the day, it's all competition. And if now some of the heads of some of the owners of Facebook, of Meta, Facebook and YouTube, and now and X, and now social, President Trump's social media, that I guarantee you that the executives, the owners of, are in a competitive mode and are trying to do whatever they can do to compete. But competition is not simple. And when you get into a competitive mode, and quite naturally, the larger the market, the more competitive. The smaller the market, the less competitive. But that's a thing of the past. Now you got to compete even in a small market. We have to work. And the key word is work. And work requires time and expertise and skill set and competence. And that's when they say that's when the boys leave. That's when the boys leave the men. that's when that thing starts. That's when it starts changing. In terms of who has the expertise and who's willing to work, who's got the work ethic to get it done. That's a whole nother issue. Those are the things that we're lacking with some of our young people. But now we got a lot of smart, energetic young people too. Now I give them credit. We were talking about that yesterday with Charles Malden, because he was a student leader in the 60s. And I believe he was the president of the Dallas County Youth League. And I think he said he was fourth in line in terms of, they were 2 by 2 when they marched on Bloody Sunday. Most of the people in line on Bloody Sunday were either SNCC or SELC. He said he was neither. He was local leadership. And I remember I interviewed Bob Mance several years ago before he passed away. Bob Mance was the second person. I believe Bob Mance was behind Albert Turner Sr. I'd have to look at the picture, but he was either behind him or behind John Lewis. He was one of the top 4 leaders of the Bloody Sunday March. And he said, first of all, and I've confirmed the story, and it's been told a couple of times. People usually didn't really get into this part of it, but he said that the leaders of the march on Bloody Sunday were chosen by straw. They pulled straws to see who would be on the front line. Nobody really wanted to be on the front line because they never knew whether or not a march was going to turn violent in terms of being attacked by law enforcement, especially after the Marion Night March and Jimmy Lee Jackson, who died as a result of his injuries. And so Bob Mann said that they decided that they would march 2 by 2. One side represented SCLC and the other side represented SNCC. And I better break this down because there may be somebody listening who doesn't know what these letters stand for. SCLC was the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that Dr. Martin Luther King and Dr. Joseph Lowry and Reverend David Abernathy and Reverend Howard Creasy, and I think there's 1 or 2 other ministers who formed and created the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. But that was actually created back in the 50s after the Montgomery bus boycott. And then SNCC was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And as you heard Charles say yesterday, SNCC tended to go more and was headed in the direction of Malcolm X's philosophy of self-defense. They didn't believe in turn the other cheek. And so so one side was SNCC, one side was SCLC as they marched 2 by 2 across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And again, Bob said that they drew straws to see who was going to be on the front line. And that ended up being Congressman Lewis and Jose Williams. And then Albert Turner, that's right, Albert Turner Sr. was the next person in the back. And then Bob Mance. Bob Mance was the tall guy. I used to think it was Reverend Orange, because Reverend Orange, Reverend James Orange was always tall. And I guess he and Bob Mance were about the same height. And I confused them. I thought it was Reverend Orange, but that was Bob Mance. And so I got a history lesson from Mr. Mance before he passed away. Now his daughter is continuing a lot of his work. And if you notice, when you ride through Lowndes County headed to Montgomery, you will see that they successfully were able to get that portion of Highway 80 named the Bob Mance Memorial Highway. Let's take this break, and I'll be back with more after these messages.
If you're considering renovating your home, doing a restoration, or new home construction, call Steve Johnson at Renovation Plus, 334-412-1939. He's not a handyman. He's a master craftsman who does the job right the first time, with minimal disturbance keeping your home clean. Here's one of Steve's customers.
This is Sandra at Cornerstone. He just does wonderful work. Everyone that I have sent to and has been very pleased. And I do not recommend people normally because I'm always scared they won't produce what they say. But I have no worries recommending him.
Choose the right contractor from the start when it comes to a renovation, restoration, or home building project. Contact Steve Johnson at Renovation Plus, specializing in all phases of home repair, paint, and remodel. 334-412-1939 for Renovation.
Congratulations to Peak Insurance, recently voted Best Insurance Agency in the Selma Time Journal Reader's Choice Awards. And a big round of applause for Lauren Adams, named Best Customer Service Representative, and for Chase Utsey, voted Best Insurance Agent.
We want to take a moment to say something very important. Thank you. Thank you to our loyal customers who continue to trust us with your insurance needs year after year. Your confidence means everything to us. I'm Owen Peak. At Peak Insurance, we're proud to be the only locally owned independent insurance agency in Dallas County. From helping you choose the right coverage to standing by your side if you ever have a claim. We represent many great insurance companies, but we work for you. We're also honored to be the exclusive representative of Auto Owners Insurance in Dallas County, along with many other top-rated carriers. So once again, from all of us here at Peak Insurance, thank you for your loyalty and thank you for your confidence. Stop by and see us at 1000 Broad Street in Selma. Call today or visit peakinsurance.com. Peak coverage, peak service, Peak Insurance.
Yeah, we got them at Meadows Tire and Automotive. A huge selection of tires in all styles and sizes from top name brands like Hercules, Kenda, Michelin, Goodyear, and others. Plus, for your auto repair shop too, specializing in brakes, oil changes, alignments, suspensions, and more. Service, quality, selection, and more. We got them. Come see them. Our deals you won't believe them. Meadows Tire and Automotive, 2897 Citizens Parkway in Selma. Call or text us at 334-875-7276.
Don't wait another day. Don't wait to get sick. Your vaccination destinations are Brown Drug, Dallas Avenue Pharmacy, Mid-Center Pharmacy, and Valley Grand Pharmacy at Dave's Market. Get the flu and pneumonia vaccines now before flu season arrives. And if you haven't had the shingles vaccine, now is the time. And you can get all of the vaccines
This morning. Good.
more competitive with the national chains, meeting requirements of most insurance companies. If you had to give up your local pharmacy for a big box store, now is the time to come back home to your locally owned pharmacy. Brown Drug, Dallas Avenue Pharmacy, Mid-Center Pharmacy, and Valley Grand Pharmacy inside Dave's Market. Locally owned with pharmacists that know you by name. caring for you and about you. All a part of the Brown Drug family of locally owned pharmacies.
1490 WHBB Viewpoint, you're on the air. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was listening to the news, Channel 12 news on TV this morning, and I heard that the city council and the county, those people that decide what the citizens' money are going to be spent, it's going to be spent on, decided, in spite of the fact that the citizens over in that area want them to help fund to keep Jackson open, they decided not to. I wish somebody, in no uncertain terms, could tell our lawmakers and our city councilmen and our county leaders and all of them that that money does not, and I know this don't have a whole lot to do with us necessarily, but some of us may end up having to go to Jackson Hospital if it's still open these days. I wish that they would learn that that money does not belong to them, and that what the citizens want it to be spent on, unless it's just something frivolous, and that's not, it should be spent on because they represent the people, not themselves. And it's like that not only on local levels, but in Washington too. They take it for granted that they're just going to walk back into office when election time comes up. And we need to show them that that's not going to happen anymore if they don't do what they're put in the office to do, and that's to represent the citizens, not themselves, and that they're not going to be chosen to go back in there anymore. It just irks me, even though we don't live in Montgomery, because it's like that in our whole country, especially in the South, it seems. And I just thought I'd bring that up because, well, I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets angry when we find out that they don't represent us, but they represent themselves.
Yeah, I think sometime I think they've gotten power drunk and have forgotten why they're there. It's just like I heard that there was and I'm not going to get into names, but I heard that someone locally even really said that they weren't going to do this and weren't going to do that, but what they weren't going to do is completely opposite of the purpose why these governmental agencies exist.
It's getting worse every day. But I hope I'll get on. But I heard your advertisement about getting your flu shots and your vaccines, and I've always heard that roofers get their shingles shots before anybody.
Oh, golly. Yeah, I hear you. Well, thank you. I can always use a little laugh, a little humor, huh? Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Well, no, that's an excellent point. Like for instance, uh, I had done some research on the nature and history of Alabama's county commissions, and it turns out that the county commissioners and the county commission's original purpose was to build bridges and roads. That's why they came into existence, and all of the other services that have been added on to that are centered around the basics: bridges and road infrastructure. That's why they exist. And so many times we lose sight of that because people a lot of times run for office because for different reasons. I don't know if they really want to. I don't know, and I'm not accusing anyone, but I question many times whether or not people are running for office because they want to be public servants, or do they want to get a paycheck, or do they want to be in charge, or do they want the title? You know what I mean? But the good news is we do have some excellent public servants, and we do have some elected officials who take their positions seriously and who understand what their function is, and they're qualified to be able to be policymakers and lawmakers. It'd be a good idea if I'm going to go to Montgomery to help make law, that I know something about the law. But that's another story. Speaking of stories, I want to do an update. Let's find out what's happening in Australia. Really disturbing trend. This violence, this uptick in violence around the globe, around the world, and in the United States is just disturbing. I guess the point is that that there are a lot of evil people in the world. Simple as that. A lot of evil, violent, mentally disturbed folks. Some people may not think that that's a mental issue. Some people may think it's normal. But Scripture, the Bible says, man's imagination is evil from his youth. Let's get this update on what's happening in Australia.
In the hopes of finding a local man who seemingly vanished into thin air. How long they say he's been missing for, and what details we're now learning about his disappearance.
A story you'll only see here on Fox 26 of Isaiah sharing his story after avoiding the deadly mass shooting in Australia by hours.
I would say 100 yards from the location, maybe even less of the location of the attack, as you could see it right behind these trees and that terrace right there.
Hear what he says may have saved his life and how he is now reflecting on the experience.
Terror plots targeting holiday celebrations are on the rise here in the U.S. and across the globe. How the FBI foiled a New Year's Eve attack planned here for California and what they say could be behind this disturbing trend.
And big changes on the way, although it doesn't look like it right now. Yeah, still dealing with some dense fog out there this morning. We are tracking your visibility.
This is a report.
And we are now talking about some rain.
26.
Details coming up at your great
And so they're going to go on through a few other things.
You're watching Fox 26. And now, great day.
Good morning. We begin this hour with a live look at central Fresno, where today's high in Fresno will be 54 degrees.
Well, they're doing the weather.
I'll just leave that to you, Justin,
also,
and you give us a head start on how we're going to be doing this Wednesday. Good morning. I'm Carl Cook.
And I'm Justin Willis. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like we're going to see any changes. We didn't yesterday.
There we go.
We were hoping, man. We were hoping. We didn't get out of the 40s yesterday in Fresno. And we're supposed to get out of them today.
So, yeah,
I know I said that yesterday, but we're tracking things. And the recipe is there for things to change for us here. So let's get into it and see how the day is starting out for you, though, and then we'll get to all the alerts and things just a bit here. But right now, it is very cold out there, 43 degrees at the moment.
Last week,
the dew point's at 41 degrees. And over the weekend, here's the rest of your day.
South Florida.
Yes, the sun's supposed to. In fact, at 10 a.m., we're putting it at mostly cloudy, which means we could start seeing the sun about that time. 47 degrees at that time, and it should be partly sunny there for us by noon at 49. And we're venturing into the 50s there about 5 o'clock at 52 degrees, and it should be mostly clear at that time. And it's a good bet that we actually get out of the 40s today. But coming up next,
for the next couple
we're
of
going
days
to track the visibilities with that fog that is still hanging on
from
and
10
just
until
won't
12
let go. We'll talk about
at
that
the
and
Wallace
some upcoming
College
rain
in front of the gymnasium. At the gymnasium,
the search continues for a Huron man who has been missing for several days now. 34-year-old Francisco Madera was last seen on this
Senior Citizens Appreciation Carnival this Saturday. Tickets will be available from 10 until 12. Tickets are $20. You have to be 65, and ID will be checked.
September 13th. Family members say he was last spotted in the Hanford-Armona area around 10 p.m. Now, he was heading home but never arrived. Word of his disappearance quickly swept through the small town of Huron, prompting residents to take action. Even people who don't know him personally are keeping an eye out. Searchers checked out a nearby canal because Ramirez's car was found there. After several hours searching, there were still no answers.
Let me take this last break, and then I will see if I can't cue it up to where we get the update on
to find him and find
the
out
most
he's okay.
recent mass shooting. That was anti-Semitic in Australia.
Local from Armona has also posted a video on TikTok that's drawn attention to the case. He's urged the community to join in the search, and in the video, he appears alongside Madera's brother. Again, take a look at this missing flyer. This is the details right here. Ramirez weighs around 190.
Relationship with all the insurance. They have something no other body shop has. They have the mom and pop of being find your care. C.S. Smith and the factory to repair. Began an accident. Ask your section of drivers if you vehicle to non-stop. Always be one shop. 2014 East. The current they can get you in today and start your repairs right away.
Use and use body shop reminds you the what tells air can do some damage to your vehicle. If you need a Dura knee repair, call Use Body Shop 334-875-4470. Your dead damaged vehicle repair specialist. Use Body Shop.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
There are only 4 seasons, and flu season does not have to be one of them. At the Selma Doctors Clinic, we are here to help keep you safe during this flu season. We're offering flu shots daily from 8 to 9 each morning and 1 to 2 each afternoon. Call us today at 874-9064 to make an appointment for that annual flu shot. Selma Doctors Clinic is located at 509 Parkman Avenue in the beautiful historical district in Selma. We have Dr. Park Chittum Sr., Dr. Park Chittum II, Dr. Daniel Clower, and our nurse practitioner, Mary Elizabeth Schweitzer. Call us today at 874-9064 to schedule an appointment for your flu shot. And remember that walk-ins are always welcome. We are the Selma Doctors Clinic, where we are always here for you.
1490 WHBB. So I was just a victim of my own profession in the public relations business. We called it bait and switch, and it's really popular in propaganda. You know, where you promise something or you say I'm going to do this, do that, and when people get to where you got them, then you switch and do something altogether different. Well, Channel 26 got me this time. Most of the report was on local stories that had nothing to do with the Bondi Beach incident in Australia. And finally, at the end, is the update on Bondi Beach. Let's see what we got.
Today, police say 2 shooters, 24-year-old Naveed Akram and his father, 50-year-old Sajid Akram, targeted Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah at Bondi Beach in Sydney, killing 15 people. Police also say their car had improvised explosive devices. The charges against the 24-year-old suspect include 1 count of murder for each death and multiple charges of causing harm with intent to murder, among others. This mass attack is now prompting the Australian Statement Parliament of New South Wales to reconvene next week to discuss even more stricter gun laws.
The government will call back the New South Wales Parliament to deal with urgent legislation that we believe is required to keep the community safe and ensure there's unambiguous laws in place when it comes to public safety.
Police recovered 6 firearms from the scene, later confirming they were licensed to the now deceased shooter. According to NPR, the 24-year-old gunman first came to the attention of the Intelligence Agency back in 2019, which Prime Minister Anthony Albanese later confirmed. Australia's gun laws are widely regarded as among the strictest in the world. But this revelation has prompted scrutiny of how a man was able to legally own 6 firearms and also hold a valid license while his son had previously come to the attention of ASIO. And the first funerals for victims killed in that Hanukkah massacre are being held. Large crowds attended the service for 41-year-old Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who was killed on Sunday. Schlanger organized the Hanukkah event at Bondi Beach, and he was the assistant rabbi at the Shabbat of Bondi and had been described as a beloved, devoted chaplain, supporting Jewish life in the community.
And that is an update on the funerals have begun for the victims of the mass shooting at Bondi Beach in Australia. Brown University in Rhode Island is coming under a lot of scrutiny because they are a very wealthy educational institution, but they're being criticized for not having spent enough on security and in particular surveillance. It sounds like most of the new buildings on their campus are equipped with cameras, but many of the old buildings are not. But if you're going to have functions, I would imagine in any of those buildings, I would think that every building in every area of the campus should have been covered. That's easy for me to say. It's like just as it's easy to be a couch coach, or a backseat driver. I don't know what the circumstances are at Brown University in Rhode Island, but I do know that according to news sources, they have an $8 billion with a B, an $8 billion endowment. That's a lot of money. And so that's why they're being criticized. They're saying that the college is far too wealthy not to have invested more in security, and they don't understand why is it that and how is it that this shooter was able to evade most of the cameras that do exist, although they have them on some. They think they have the suspect, but he was wearing a mask. And so you cannot see his face. There's a lot of questions being asked. They say that many of the students that were, or people, I don't know if they were all students or not, but the people who were in the building and in the room where the shooting took place, that they don't know who they were. And so now they're asking by way of media for those people to get back in touch with the school officials so they can get their firsthand account of what happened. There's some saying that the shooter hollered something or said something, and they want to know whether or not who heard it and what he said. Was it an ethnic phrase? And more importantly, could they detect any kind of a dialect from the person? Was he Southern? Was he a New Yorker? Was he Rhode Island? Was he New England? Was he from the Midwest, or was he a foreigner? Nobody knows. Well, they're not giving the answers. I suspect they know more than what they're telling, because you certainly don't want to tip, I wouldn't think, too much information and tip your hat to the suspected killer, who is obviously still on the loose, and no one knows where he is or if it's even a he. It could be a she. They say the one thing most people they agree on is that he's not African American. He was too light to be African American, it appears. But they think that he could be Middle Eastern, he could be an Arab, he could be white, he could be Hispanic, he could be Asian. Nobody knows because of that mask. But they're going through more footage. But I tell you what, I have a lot of respect for the science of what the criminologists do with the FBI. They know what they're doing. And if they really if the FBI starts digging into it, but I understand right now, so far, it is locally controlled, the investigation. So we're waiting to see what the new developments are with that. Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Good morning again, Randy. There are so many stories we are following, but anyway, on human interest side, perhaps, maybe I'll try to lead that discussion. Maybe Ron Reiner's family, his father was named Carl or Cal. Which one? You remember his father?
What was the last name?
The Reiner's family, Michelle and Bob Reiner, over in California, over in Hollywood.
Oh, you're talking Reiner. I thought you said Minor. You're talking about the you're talking about the Reiner family in California, right? What about them?
I was just thinking about them. My heart goes out to them because I followed them for so long. I think that's why a lot of us are mourning their death, and then to have that internal agony. They've gone through that a lot of years with that son who was just 32 years old,
who's accused of, allegedly. We still don't know for sure that he did it. He's the number one suspect. And the other thing they haven't talked about, they weren't just stabbed, their throats were slit. They're not saying that, but they're coming out a little bit at a time. Somebody slit their throats, didn't just stab them. So they had to be close, but I hear what you're saying. I'm following that as well.
But they show some pretty case whereby he had gone to a convenience store shortly thereafter the murder. It's hard. It's disheartening because I guess I know the work ethic of that family. We followed him for so long. The father, it's just.
Well, we're out of time, but I hear what you're saying. Part of the risk of being a celebrity, the downside to being a celebrity, there's a lot of complications can come with that. Thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow morning, the good Lord willing. Stay tuned for Fox News. Up next on WHBB Selma, it's 9 o'clock. Have a good day.
A special interview for next special counsel. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The Republican-led House Judiciary Committee is about to question in private Jack Smith, the former special